Hi there. Welcome. It's Pete the Polymath. Here to entertain you and to educate you and to hopefully change the course of human history and that of the biosphere. I am also the atheist messiah. All life's a bit of a joke. Now, today's lecture. The discussion point today is about ejaculation. It's about orgasm. It's about what those things mean as far as what we are as a species, as far as what that means to each of our male psychologies. Now, I know that many of you will drop out in the first 30 seconds because you'll think, oh, I don't want to listen to this old man ramble on about something or other. Now, if you're a man, then I guarantee you by the end of it, you will know how to masturbate better. In particular, if you are a circumcised man and you want to know how to masturbate at the absolute highest order of satisfaction, then I can guarantee you will have some advantage from watching my YouTube. Although you might have already heard about something that's called, apparently, like I've been told this, the Queen's slipper. Not my terminology, just something that was told to me by a man who has moved in circles that are probably very different to mine. And probably his reference probably refers to homosexual sex amongst men rather than me and most of you being heterosexual men. And if you're a woman watching this, well, you'll know a lot more about men by the time this is all finished. Now, just by pure sort of bad luck, I've just caught myself wearing glasses now. So I'll just return to my sort of wizard appearance and remove any sort of sign that I belong to today's era. Anyway, orgasm, right? Orgasm is something that the brain is able to generate. It's a special collection of synchronized behavioral things relating to breath and blood pressure and stimulation of the hypothalamus. And there are sensory things going on there. There's probably olfactory things going on there. There are visual things going on there. There's a whole orchestration of different things to come together. And I once had a girlfriend who wanted me to be the one who introduced her to the world of sexuality. I was to be her first lover, and she was a virgin. And it was terrible, really, because she had absolutely no idea about anything. She had never had an orgasm. She had no idea what it was like, and so other people like me, we just tried to describe it like it's sort of like a sneeze, sort of like a hiccup, sort of like an involuntary cough, sort of like throwing up. Like it's something that takes over for this short period of time and produces this enormous feeling of bliss and some kind of almost like a time dilation effect. There is something very, very mysterious that happens there. And that's the whole purpose of orgasm in the first place. It is to give a reward that makes the recipient want to do it again. And if by doing it again they produce an orgasm in their partner, then they see that they are a successful lover. They've accomplished something. If there's mutual orgasm, then that is perfection, isn't it? That's what we dream of. That's what they do in the movies, isn't it? Yes. But how often do you get mutual orgasm, simultaneous orgasm, I suppose? How often does that happen? as a man, we have an orgasm every single time, unless we have some kind of dysfunctional thing and erectile thing, and we fade away towards the end perhaps and get a bit too flaccid, like there are things that might go wrong along the way. But otherwise, men always have an orgasm, and that in itself is the reason why we exist. We have come from an endless succession of men with the same Y chromosome as us. No, yes, going right back, and them all being successfully able to impregnate a woman to produce the offspring that ends up sort of being out in our lineage. Now, so the female orgasm, like, it might be just like the male nipple, like it's there because it's too difficult for evolution to filter it out. It's much easier just to say, well, let's just include this because there's no real cost. And there can be other sort of advantages, such as women wanting men who can turn them on and give them that thrill, and that orgasm is a bonding experience. But as you've probably watched my previous videos on sexuality, and if you haven't, you must. It is compulsory listening, because I want you to be fully informed and not just take what's happening out of this video and so say, well, now I know it all, or I don't want you to jump to any conclusions or anything. I want you to understand what it is I'm trying to explain to you, because in the polymath, I've done some really strange things in order to master what it is to be a human, and what it is to be a man, and what it is to be a lover. And my only sort of real handicap along the whole way, as far as sexuality is concerned, is that I met so many women who had absolutely no idea. And that was because their previous lovers had been men who had absolutely no idea. Because of a complete lack of sexual education, perhaps the sexual education being limited to dirty stories, and perhaps it was limited to pornography or movies about the way romance progresses and relationships form and all of that kind of stuff, and all just a bit of pretend and wishful thinking and hoping for the best and muddling through, hoping that the experiences you have accumulate into some wealth of knowledge after a certain period of time. Right, so I'll introduce you to my first orgasm. Right now, mine. I used to think mine was a complete, like a unique experience. But I found out that just a year and a half ago I was at a men's festival, and I told my story amongst just a group of us men, and one of the other men said, I had that as well. So there are very few of us men who had their first orgasm before the age of 4, and I suspect that mine was pretty much about the time of turning 3. And I can gauge that because it was accompanied by another experience, and that was I think I've said this in the past about my relationship with my father, and he was a great man, but not necessarily he didn't know how to be a great father, as men of his generation were, and so I think I was 3, and I'll tell you the reason why in a moment. He was a friend of his who was like when he was wedding and all that sort of stuff. Like, it was a long-time friend of his, and he visited, and we lived in a house that had these 16-foot high ceilings, like these massive of ceilings, and Dad was talking to Brian Devaney, I think it was, and there I was, this son of his that he was no doubt extremely proud of, and me being so active and happy as a child at that stage, I think. he picked me up, which was really unusual, and then he did something he'd never done before, and something he never did again, and that was he threw me up into the air, like a long way up in the air, and suddenly I was flying, and then falling back and being caught in his arms, and and my shock and surprise, and Dad's laughter, and I think the laughter of his friend as well. Like it was such a strange experience. And I know that at that time I did something else that was the core of this memory, the thing that locks it into this 3-year-old sort of time zone, and that is that I had an orgasm while trying to climb my father's leg. Now, you'll probably just got this amazing imagery of like a dog humping someone's leg or something like that, you know. But it was nothing like that. Absolutely nothing at all like that. There was no erection. There was no arousal. There was nothing at all to do with that. I'd stumbled across something. I did a lot of tree climbing, and my sister was 18 months older, so she was setting the pace as a toddler. I had to follow her, and she was climbing trees, and so therefore I had to climb trees, and I figured out how to climb trees. And there was a certain sort of diameter of these trees that we could climb, and they couldn't. If we couldn't wrap our legs around them, we couldn't climb them. So big trees were out, and that's the sense. And if they were too thin, well, we couldn't really climb them either, unless we could really grip with our feet rather than our thighs and shins. So it was the way they skimmied up a tree by gripping it, and sort of almost like an inch caterpillar, so like creeping up a tree, and I'm sure that the tricks we were learning were sort of like behaviour and go back millions of years. Like ever since we came down from the trees, we had to sort of learn how to climb back up them every now and then to get to those nuts and fruit, or to get away from the leopards and lions and wolves and whatever else was after us. Anyway, yeah. So climbing trees, and there was some particular thing that happened, and I believed it was something to do with tricking my vision, and I'd pretend that I was very giddy from being up incredibly high. And I could look down, and it was as if I was looking from some great height, and everything was very small, like I was looking down on tiny people on tiny buildings, and and then there was me trying to climb up higher, and I was frustrated by sliding down the tree. I was getting up and trying to get up, and the frustration of not making progress. It was like some dream sequence in some sort of way, and through that, this strange sensation would sweep over my body. Every aspect of my being was encompassed within that ecstasy that lasted those few seconds. The pulse quickening, and even just being overcome in such a degree that not paralysis, but a weakening. All my muscle strength would drain away for that time. It was a very unusual experience that I couldn't explain to anyone else, and no one else ever was able to mention anything like it ever happening to them. And even when I was like 14, I remember writing an essay in school describing this experience I had when I was climbing trees, and I was marked quite well for it. And I didn't know what it was. I hadn't reached puberty then. I was just on the way, you know. Nothing really had happened in that regard. There was no reason why I should associate such a now I call an orgasm. No reason I should associate that in any way with having sex, because there was nothing. It had nothing to do with genitals, nothing at all, zero. But growing up, there was something we all tried to figure out. I was trying to figure out about this sex thing, because we had a penis, and I grew up on a farm, so I'd watch the bulls sort of service the cows, and I watch the dogs fuck their bitches, and watch the cats do their sort of like agonies of screaming and they do go back for more. Like, why would they possibly want to go back for more if they scream so much? And then I think I've mentioned in other videos, like something that probably damaged my relationship with my father, because I could hear the agony that my mother had to endure every night at the hands of my father, because the walls in our house were just plaster, and we heard everything. And they'd get up in the morning and they'd be all smiles, and I would think, like, what kind of strange kind of slavery and brutality is this? But my mother still loves him, still like pretends that he is a great friend, and like I just couldn't understand it, because like in those days there was no such thing as sex education. And I think I mentioned in other videos about first finding pornography and finding the pornography that was in the forest behind our place, and if I found it soon enough, it hadn't been sort of damaged by the rain falling on it and the pages sticking together because of that, and not because of any smutty kind of behaviour that's happening. And so when I think I was 16 when I opened up one of the magazines, and this was not hardcore. This was nothing explicit. This was just boobs and some vague sort of look at total body nudity and things like that. And there was not even a glimpse of any labia. There's no such a thing. This was very, very soft porn. But I saw this image of this young woman in her full sort of beauty, and she had pubic hair, and that completely blew me away. Like, how come I didn't know this? Well, it's because like I'd never seen a naked woman, and that was like, I uploaded a video yesterday about the naked truth, and I explained that whole thing there about my entire sort of understanding of what it was to be a man aroused by a woman, and a woman sort of feeling herself to be a woman. That was totally missing, totally gone. Like, it was totally absent. Anyway, I didn't rush into forming sexual relationships. I had a girlfriend when I was 16, and I was just so sort of overwhelmed by hormones and stuff, and just absolutely have no idea what's going on, because my father was such a poor role model, and we didn't really see our uncles chatting up arts, and because by then they were also in these long-term sort of relationships, and watching my friends in their relationships, well, they were just stumbling around, and they tended to have sexual relationships with the first woman who let them, and then they were sort of stuck with her, or going through some horrendous breakup and stuff. And like I wanted to be in a relationship, but I just couldn't do it. And even I think I mentioned yesterday that I didn't know about what how sex and children sort of all went about. So things, I thought that a man had sex with a woman and then she had a child, because that's what the books all said. I didn't know that you could have sex like maybe 100 times, maybe 1,000 times, and maybe you might get a child, depending on just how it all sort of worked out, mainly due to the woman's fertility and stuff like that. I don't want to go through all it again. I'm just sort of saying that there is a context, and there'll be some people watching this video that haven't seen all that before. Anyway, I'll get to the interesting stuff now about masturbation, and like, there is a lot of masturbation going on, and men have always done it, and and it's probably something of our nature. It's probably a natural thing for men to go through, as a kind of rehearsal as far as matching fantasy and stuff. We have wet dreams, and then we learn to masturbate, and in some ways we learn how to ensure that we can last long enough. Like once you're engaged in making love, then you know it's going to have a happy ending. But if you can delay that as long as you possibly can, then you are just sitting on top of the world. It's absolute paradise, the view from there, and it's bliss all the way through. And you just maintain that if you have that control, if you learn how to be a great lover. You learn how to keep that going until she is in her state of complete bliss as well, and then you ascend to this heaven together. Like even just just saying those words and imagining it again. Like I haven't had sex with a woman or anyone for that matter for 20 years. Even now I can feel a tiny sort of surge of arousal just around the loin area, because I'm a man. You know, this is what we do. We are driven by our imagination and the reality we can bring into that. So I've never been a sex addict. I've only had like a dozen lovers in my entire life, and there have been times when I've had periods of several years as an adult where I've had no lover at all. And all through those times, I thought, oh, maybe I'll meet someone soon. Like it'll happen. Like I'll find someone and it'll all just blossom and things will happen and it'll be we'll be soulmates and things like that. It'll be wonderful and sort of stuff. And because I just didn't want to enter into some ridiculous like a relationship, and I tried some one night stands and they were absolute complete disasters. It wasn't good for her. It wasn't good for me, and it wasn't good for my conscience. I was plagued by a sense of betrayal and turning something that is a wonderful, mystical, magical kind of experience into something that's more like what lower order animals do. Just find one that lets you fuck it, and then you do it like. And then once that's over, just piss off and let her sort of deal with the consequences. Like there's a low order way of dealing with sexuality, and I think that's, you'll recognise what that is. And like I think I've mentioned the problem I had with my ex, how she, in her background and with her understanding, I tell people, like we had a mutual orgasm every single time, except for a couple of times that didn't quite work out in the very first weeks of our relationship, and that was because I was just so hyped up about sort of meeting a woman who understood her sexuality and was capable of an orgasm, and I didn't quite understand how to deliver the goods for her in the best possible way. I had to sort of develop a strategy, not just to enhance her experience, to bring her up to that level, whether it be sort of extended foreplay or whether it be sort of through what I was doing in the act, and part of that was often change positions, just to break my rise to the penultimate of heights. And I had another great lover after that, and I was able to apply all of my principles of forming the perfect relationship with a woman. And I was about 50 and she was about 36, and we didn't use any contraception. We didn't use any of that, and so it was playing for real, and I'd made a commitment. Like if a child's born from this, it's born from love, and I'd formed this thing, like this idea of how we would live out the rest of our lives together in this amazing sort of paradise, and it didn't work out, and there was a number of reasons for that, and one was cultural. She was Georgian, and she was born in a Jewish tradition, and from upper class, and she had lived through 2 wars and escaped from Georgia to live in Moscow as an illegal refugee. So she had a lot of problems, a lot of stuff, and she'd lived 7 years in a previous relationship, and he was a psychologist, and she eventually realised that I wasn't rich enough, that I wasn't going to provide some kind of amazing cultural experience for her, and she went back to the man that she had once thought she loved, and once she'd been separated from him for 6 months or so, she realised that he was the one, and because she was still undergoing therapy. Anyway, so there's lots of reasons why that relationship didn't end up, but the consequences for me was I had this enormously powerful sort of lesson on how as a man I could build my own psychology and build this concept of love to this enormous level. And then, of course, with the final sort of failure, in that the grief and the mourning process that hounded me for months. There were months when I couldn't smile, I couldn't laugh. There were, and you can probably many of you all understand the nature of what that is, that kind of loss, and. It's there are things like there are crimes of passion. We often hear about crimes of passion because we commit so deeply into love, and then for love to go wrong, and it all being betrayal and humiliation and the future that you had all planned out is now sort of completely lost, and all you have is loneliness and misery and stuff. And in countries where there are guns, well, we know the consequences there. And in countries where there aren't any guns, well, there are still consequences, but they can often be offset by some way that we can delay and think through and consider the consequences and realise that every failure we have is a learning experience that shouldn't stop us from committing to another relationship, but just make sure that we do it properly next time. Make sure that we don't make the same mistakes, and don't enter into a relationship with someone that is incompatible with you. And that's why I say you've got to like the smell of your lover, because there are subtleties in relationships that you can sort of in the heat of a honeymoon kind of period and sort of stuff, that those first months and things, you can consciously we can override all these differences and say, she's the one, like I found it, yes, and then after a while it's like, oh, the gloss is now worn off, and this person is really starting to annoy me, and I really don't like being in her company anymore. I'll spend a lot of time in my men's shed. I'll spend a lot of time sort of getting drunk. I'll spend a lot of time sort of going fishing, where I can just sit and stare at the water for a long period of time and just ponder the mistakes I've made in my life. So I'm probably I've gone along for a long time in this video, and I've promised you something at the very beginning for all of you circumcised men, and I'll lead into this by saying that there are aspects of courtship that I have not pursued because I haven't had the opportunity, because we are just so limited in our understanding of what we are as sexual beings. We're sort of inventing it. We don't inherit anything from our parents and even from our ancestors in this regard, because whatever we had in the truly ancient times when our sexuality was evolving, that's long been lost. It's just like our voice. We evolved to be great vocalists, and we lost the ability to do that until we don't sing anymore. There's lots of things we've just lost, and we just sort of say, oh, we were never meant to have those things, or the ignorance is bliss kind of thing. We're just blissfully ignorant about just how beautiful and wonderful things could possibly be. Anyway, so there are aspects of courtship that I haven't mentioned in the past that I want to. As an overtone singer, I've done this I did this last at a festival over New Year with a woman at last. I did this with an overtone singer like myself. We worked out it was possible, and then pondered what it was to do this as lovers, and that was for me to produce a perfect note like a "aww," and for her to have her mouth positioned perpendicular to my lips, like her cheek touching mine, with the back of her mouth closed off, as when you say the word song and it gets the part, and then for her to open and close her lips until she is able to, without producing any sound from her voice box at all, she becomes the resonator for my own sound. And so I'm producing the sound, and she is resonating in my frequency. And then we change positions, and so she becomes the producer of the sound, and I'm the one who takes her sound and lets her vibration enter into my mouth and into my sinuses and into my brain, into my ears, my whole skull vibrating with her vibration. Now, this woman was a beautiful, wonderful woman, and it was a festival, and we were not lovers, and we didn't even kiss, but we formed a relationship of like a friendship, a deep friendship. There was one of those things that we accept each other without question. Anyway, that's an aspect of courtship I think that we need to pursue, and you need to become a singer to do that. Now, the next thing is this aspect of masturbation. And I think that there's a stage of courtship where the man watches his future lover masturbate. So he learns what she requires in order to orgasm. So she is training him, and he is listening to her sounds, and he's watching her convulsions of ecstasy. Like he's hyper aroused about what this all means, because like this one day all this will be his. Like he'll be doing this, and then the roles are reversed, and he is masturbating, and he is masturbating not to pornography, but to her erotic poses. So she is presenting herself as the lover that's hyper arousing him, and she's assessing him as well. Like can you do it? Can you get it up? Do you know how to become aroused yourself? And do you just sort of get there and just instantly sort of blow it? Are you just going to be a premature ejaculator and not much fun at all, apart from just being someone who can be perhaps a great father of children? And so I think there's a level and a layer of introduction into this aspect of will we be lovers? Will we commit to this next stage? And we're almost there. We're exposing ourselves at this most profound level that's not intercourse. I did not have sex with that lady. um, um, okay, so I think that there is this phase of mutual, like, watching, and then this next phase that comes in, which is mutual masturbatory orgasm, right? So the first one is we watch each other one at a time, so we work it out, and the next one is we masturbate together, and then we have sex, and even our first sexual encounter perhaps should be after this mutual orgasm has happened as well, because as a man, the first ejaculation we have in a night, that's easy. It's so easy to do that. But to go a second time means you're going to have probably half an hour of not having an erection, but still being sort of hyper aroused in some sort of way of this incredibly exciting experience that you're sharing with this wonderful lover of yours. And so, having already ejaculated, then your first actual sexual encounter, that can be something of a much more prolonged and intensive experience, and something that's more memorable, because that's one of the things we do with sex. We have it, and then in the times when we're away, we're hunting, we're sort of working, we're sort of playing sport, we're doing something elsewhere, we can bring back this incredible memory of this amazing experience of love making we had. And when we're young, like us men, my record was making love 6 times in the one session, but that was when I was only 22, 21, 20, so 22, or 21. Anyway, yeah. When you're young like that, you can go for ages and keep on going over and over and stuff like that. Now, for you circumcised men, I'm a circumcised man. I didn't know I was circumcised until I was 14, because all the other men I knew, all my peers, I never saw a man naked. I only saw my peers naked, and they were all circumcised. So I had absolutely no idea. And the textbooks, like, they just had circumcised men as the example of. Well, actually, there were some that did have foreskins and stuff, but it was just like a total unknown. And so the original masturbation experiences for men, before we decided to ritually cleanse ourselves, or to satisfy some stupid god's crazy idea, after having been created in his image, we have to sort of chop off part of our sort of manhood to do that. Yeah. Anyway, so, okay, right, down to business. Like, what? Okay, so if the ideal masturbation for a man is when you do have a foreskin, then it makes sense for this kind of imagery. All right? Now, I'm only just assuming, because I have no idea about what it's like to masturbate with a foreskin. But that makes no sense to a man who has been circumcised. But it does make sense to a man who has not been circumcised, I believe. So, given that, you get a condom, you unroll it just a tiny bit so there's enough sort of space in it, and you spit into it. The white girl, you know. And then you use some lubricant, and you put that in there, and then you roll it on. And it can be rolled on when you're erect, and you roll it on when you're flaccid. And then you are able to masturbate like a true, authentic man. And I would sometimes do experiments with this. I could do things like crazy, extreme things, as I do as a polymath. would try sort of having an orgasm while I was running. And I'll tell you just a bit more. Probably got your interest. I'll tell you a bit more about some of my experience. I didn't get into any pornography at all. I didn't buy my first pornography until I was 1 year married. And now it's like if you got into my computer, you might sort of do this like search, and you might find that there is a file there that has like 70,000 images. And what do all these images have in common? They are only images of women. Like, in other words, there are no children. There's no one under the legal age of 18, because the sites that I've downloaded these images from, that is a stipulation, and that is a requirement. And that for me is what a healthy man should be fantasizing with. Is you can fantasize about sex with a woman who is capable of bearing a child. One is fertile. Fertility is the ultimate sort of turn on. It's the beauty of the face, the beauty of the body, the beauty of the genitalia, the beauty of the personality, the intellect, and all those kind of things. All that in together. And I've only ever sort of downloaded pornography that is of women who have not shaved their pubes. Now there is some sort of situations where it's partially shaved, because like there's a bikini line, because a lot of women are extremely embarrassed about sort of being seen to be too hairy, and often the condemnation is not going to come from the men who will be their lovers. It's going to come from the women who will judge them as being sort of like unkempt and sort of not caring for themselves satisfactorily, and like all this sort of stuff, and of course, like the ultimate sort of sex posts and stuff, like to show that they have not shaved their armpits, to show that their legs have not been shaved. Like, I want to see women in their true beauty, the what we as men evolved to look at and sort of say, well, wow, that is the glory of what it is to be the lover of a man like me. I need arousal by a real woman, not a woman who is conforming to some kind of stupid fantasy. And so I'm giving you the clues, and I'm giving you the ideas, and I'm never watch pornography of any underage, right? And never watch pornography of other people having sex. Like, never ever do that. Never be a voyeur. Because that leaves you with this strange sensation of why am I missing out? Why is this other guy having all the fun? Now this is really deep, and I don't want you to lose confidence in me. I want you to see just how far I go with my determination that I'll understand as much as I possibly can about this sex and arousal kind of thing. The kind of research that I have put myself through in order to gain the kinds of insights that I'm now passing on to you. I went to, like I was sort of trapped in Melbourne one time, and I went to a men's club, one where there are strippers, and I went there because I had to. I needed to stay up all night, and that was one of the things that just happened. And the first night I was there, I just happened to be given a lottery ticket by one of the wonderful ladies who sort of recognised me as not being one of these other perverts. I was a genuine man there, appreciating them for who they were completely, rather than just treating them as this sex being. I wanted to have conversations with these women. I wanted to have some kind of friendship with them in some sort of sense, and they knew that. And that first night, I won a free pass for life Like it was, and so then there was nothing to no financial sort of thing that would restrict me, and so I'd start going there on a weekly basis, and just so I could sort of, like sometimes I get stoned and I go there and I just sort of like sit there at the table's all sort of raised and just sit there just staring up at these women sort of strutting around in their profound female glory, the beauty of it all. They were not able to do the full erotic poses where they were that I find in my pornography, where they were able to reveal their labia and hold wide open to reveal their vagina, the cavern, the wondrous space that just smells and entices, and yes, but they were doing the best they could, and they were earning good money, and but just according to the rules and the laws and stuff, they were all shaved legs, all their pubes shaved off, shaved armpits, and they were just totally overwhelmed with perfume. And so it wasn't a perfect experience, but it was the best I could get. And I'd even take it. I'd have the lap dance. I'd fork out the money and have the dedicated lap dance that was just me, just for me. It was me and her, and just to not take my eyes off her, and to be able to ogle and do the heavy breathing, and to do what I was practicing was the moans, like the and sometimes I would blow my breath so that it would waft over her fanny, and she would thank me for it, because I was not the normal man, and I would take this to the limit, the height of all of that. So me being a bearded, long-haired man, there'd be a time when the manager would put 5 tables up on this enormous catwalk and ask for 5 men to ascend to the catwalk and take one of these chairs and have a personal lap dance up on stage. And I would love that experience. It was just such a peak experience of being a man. I wouldn't know which of these wonderful women we'd look across as these 5 men. We'd look across at these absolute total sort of beauties walking onto the stage and stripping off. Well, they choose. Well, not they choose, but they had their chair allocation, and then they would have to smile, and they'd have to sort of look like they were enjoying it, and they'd have to do their dance, and take off their clothes, and they had a time slot, so they'd take it off sort of fairly quickly and stuff, and shake their boobs and wiggle their bum, and and do everything, even climb up on the chair and shake their fanny in our faces and stuff. Like it was absolutely peak experience. And the trick was never take your eyes off this woman. And you know that when you're on the stage there was sometimes like 100 men all staring at you, all with their hyper arousal, all envying you because you were the alpha male. This woman had chosen you in some sort of way, and she was yours, and you were left as a voyeur, and wondering whether you would one day have the courage to climb up on that stage and take your place, and live out that erotic extreme. And I've mentioned my journals that go back to 1985, and there was one particular journal that that it was a very special journal, because there was a time when the journal I'd been writing in, I'd run out. Like, it came to the end and I had no other journal to follow on. So I searched through it. Here's a journal that's only half full. So I'll just continue writing from this one. And so that I was writing that one. And then one day I forgot about it. I left it behind, and I went off. And when I was away, like when I left the house, and I thought, oh, my journal. I've left it in a place where my wife could find it. Will she read it? And she did, and that was the end of the marriage. But she thought that I was seeing prostitutes, because I was writing my experiences with these erotic dancers in my journal, and she knew just how much I disliked our relationship, and how I was dreaming of when I'd be free from it. And it does sound horrible, but that was my release from that kind of world, and we're still both 50, and we're still young enough to have meaningful relationships and maybe find our true love and stuff, and each of us, or both of us, did find relationships for a while in certain kind of ways, but neither of us found true love, which is, well, it's sad, but it's what life does to us, and here I am, sort of bringing up all this stuff to you, and I'm explaining these things to you, and I've never explained these things to my friends or to my relatives, and even my ex, after being separated for 20-something years, and we still get along well, or at least we did, until we had a big argument at Christmas over various things that were alcohol related, mainly me sort of speaking the truth in certain ways, and everyone else sort of being really pissed off about that, because they'd heard me speak the truth all this time, and they well practiced at ignoring it, there will be consequences for me by making this YouTube, but I consider the educational potential it has for you, as someone who listens to a man speak his heart, as someone who has studied the subject of what he is as a hetero male, one who's done the research and understanding what it is to have evolved to be this hetero male in this society, and someone who's understood the reason why we've ended up being a society that has so many problems, and one of those is definitely our sexuality. It causes a lot of crime, and it causes a lot of dysfunctional families that then have dysfunctional children that then grew up to have dysfunctional relationships, and those cycles end up continuing forever. And so, if we can develop our own sort of health. And that takes, like I say, you can discover something, and then you have to learn how to master that, and that takes years. You have to grow the brain to master things. Lots of practice of thinking and action and stuff, and then the insights and the recalibration occur, and then after a long period of time, you realise that you've sort of recalibrated what it is that you are a human. You're no longer that simpler form, the one that we could live in that ignorance is bliss state. And you look back and you say, well, I'm glad that I moved on from there. I'm glad that even though at the time I thought I knew it all, I'm glad that I made that effort to continue the journey of learning until now. I at least know more than I did then, even though I think I know it all. And I have to also recognise that I don't know it all. In 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, I'll look back on this time and I'll say, well, I thought I knew it all then, and now I've gained this higher level of enlightenment or wisdom or of application of what it is to be human. And that state in 10 years' time, hopefully, will be when we have gone beyond the reasons why wars exist, or the reasons why crime exists, the reason why we have street people living on in the streets of our wealthiest cities. The reason why there are people just shooting stupid, mind-numbing chemicals straight into their veins, or dropping tablets that remove all of their conscious faculty and deliver them into some hallucinatory dream state that anaesthetizes them and puts them in this standby zone where death can be a relief rather than some sad loss for everyone concerned. So I'm glad you've stuck to the end and joined with me on this journey. These of course are totally sort of unscripted, and so if I know the subject well, I should be able to speak about it well, and if I've spoken to 100,000 people, I should be able to speak to you. And because of your anonymous nature, I expect you to be able to express yourself in writing in the comment section. Tell me what it is you've learned. Tell me what it is you want to explain about your own situation, or the things that you feel that you want to educate people about. And that might even be your experience as a woman, or as a transgender, or as a homosexual, or any other kind of things, as a non-sexual, as an old person in their 90s reflecting on the youth and how things have changed in regard to education and knowledge, or even as if you're just going through puberty, what it is that you have found that might be useful in what I've been able to explain. I want you to be able to inspire other people in your interpretation and in your journey so far, and in your ambitions and your quest to master what it is that you are as a human. So thanks very much, folks. It's probably another long one, and hopefully it's been worthwhile. And you are the ones who've gotten to the end. You've taken the bait and learned how to advance masturbate, or at least understand how others do it. And hopefully you've learned how to enhance your own understanding of yourself, and how you can enhance the relationship with your present lover, or the lovers you will have after this one, or the lovers you'll just have in the future, that you might be celibate at this point in time. So good luck on your journey, and you can never know too much. You can only know too little. So Pete the Polymath signing off again, and I'll see you again next time.